Hello, welcome back to my channel, Charlie's Lessons. In this video, I'm taking you on a journey of games that I've decided are my favorite after 16 years teaching children and teens. Now, if you're looking for help and support on teaching children and teens, but not just isolated activities like the ones I'm going to describe in this video, then go check out my playlist on teaching children that's appearing right above you now. So let's get started with number one. The name of this game is Riddles. Now, the way this game works, it's going to happen at the beginning of the class. And this is a great way of settling your students, especially if they tend to get a bit chaotic at the beginning of a class. What you're going to do as a teacher, you're going to come in earlier and you're going to write a simple riddle on the board, and the students are going to have to guess what the answer is. Make sure the riddle is complex enough that it's going to make them have to think about the answer. You could even pop the students into pairs or teams and give them some time to work out the answer. A very simple one for younger students could be, what has hands but can't clap? And the answer would be a clock. Or for example, what has a head and a tail but no body? A coin. If you're looking for riddles for your class, then go check out the link in the description to a website that has lots of riddles that you can steal and use in your class. Game number two is a game called Connect the Letters. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to put the class into two teams, and you're going to take one student from each team to come up to the front of the class. Now, each of those two students at the front of the class are going to take a board pen, and they're going to come up with a random letter. So let's say, for example, one student writes the word P, and the second student R. And so what your students are going to have to do now is to come up with a word that connects these two letters. At this point, you can work it a number of different ways. You can either set a timer and the first team to come up with a word wins, or you can give both teams a longer time, maybe a minute or more, and the students that come up with the longest word get the most points. So for example, one team could come up with the word proper, or for example, a team could come up with this word preacher, and they would get more points. This is a great way to practice spelling, so when it comes to a test, your students don't lose marks. One thing you might want to control as a teacher is this last letter. In this example was R. Try not to have letters like J, Q, or V, because these are quite difficult to end with. Number three is called excuses. Now, this is going to be perfect for the end of the class. So let's imagine you have about 5 or 10 minutes at the end of your class and you want to do something fun. So you're going to ask your students to come up with excuses on why they need to be first in line to leave the class. Now, you're going to give points for a criteria that could be such things as the most surprising, the most unbelievable, the most realistic, or anything that you decide on before you start playing. And so what's going to happen is students are going to get points for coming up with the most ludicrous or most ridiculous excuse on why they have to leave first. And as you as a teacher are listening to these excuses, you're placing the students in the order that you think is either the most unbelievable, the most believable, whatever criteria you set. Number four is Rank It, and this has to be one of my students' favorite games over the years. So if you want to learn how to play this game in your class, then go follow the link to the video above. Number five is a game that I call Time to Go. It basically means that you're going to be asking your students revision questions based on the content you're teaching to enable them to leave the class. So for example, as a teacher, you're going to need to prep some questions that will be related to the topic you're teaching, and then you're going to be asking your students individually one of these questions, and if they get it right, they can go stand at the door and they're ready to go. And if a student gets the question wrong, you move on to the next student. You won't believe the motivation that your students have to leave the classroom. I don't care how great a teacher you have, you are not going to win the battle versus staying in your classroom or going home. If you've already finished asking all your questions, all the students got it right, and you're all standing in line ready to go, but you've still got a few minutes left, you could start going through some more questions to the students that are already in line and give them the opportunity to move up the line. So you could ask a student that's sitting maybe in third place the opportunity to move up to first place. This next game is called Something Different. It's very simple. You can ask one student to leave the classroom, but before they do, they need to make a mental note of what everyone is wearing and where everyone is sitting. Now, what's going to happen when that student is outside the classroom, you're going to ask 3 students to change something about them. It could be about their appearance, or it could be where they're sitting. And when the student's been called back into the classroom, they need to identify those 3 differences. In your English language class, this could be a really simple way to introduce comparisons or to introduce past simple actions. If you're looking for online resources, and I've also got you covered, go check out the link in my description for my book, 50 websites English teachers should know. In that book, I've got 50 websites which you can use in class or give your students for homework, which give them the practice they need, be it reading, listening, writing, or even speaking. So go check out the link, it's right there in the description. This next game is called Pass the Banana. Now, this is very simple, and don't worry, you don't need to have bananas to play this game. The way it works is just find any object. It could be an apple, it could be a ball, it could be a banana. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna ask the students to sit in a circle. And the students are going to begin to move that object around the circle, passing it between them. The student who first lets go of the object to pass it to the other student, they're going to be asked to name 5 things in any category that you choose as a teacher. So let's imagine it's food. And so the student has the object in their hand and you say go. They let go of the object, pass it to the next student, and they then have to name 5 pieces of food. And so they would start saying cake, chocolate, etc. But as they're naming these, the object is moving very quickly around the circle. And the objective is for this one student to name 5 things before the object returns back to them. If they are unable to name the 5 things in this case, then they are out, and you're going to pull them out of the circle so that the circle becomes even smaller. And what you'll notice if you play this game is that as the more students that leave the circle, the more difficult it becomes. So don't worry, if you have some students idle because they've been eliminated, the game is very quick and starts again. The next game is called Sink or Swim. And I'm going to show you on the board how it works. But what you need to do first is simply take your class and put them into 2 teams, and you need to have some questions prepped based on the topic that you're teaching. So I want you to imagine that this is your classroom, and this in the middle is the ocean. And what we're going to have here are your students. Let's say we have here the red team and the green team. And you're going to start by asking this team the first question. Now, if they get it right, they can sink one of the other team members. And now the objective of this game is to be the last team swimming. And so what happens now is that this team has 1 member sinking, and now we're going to ask this team their question. If they get it right as well, they have 2 options. They can either rescue their sinking member, or they can sink an opposite team member. Now let's say they do get it right and they do decide to sink another team member. I'm now going to ask this team their second question, and let's say they get it wrong. Now, they have to sink one of their own team members. Now, in this case, we've only started with 2 students, but they would have to sink one of their team members, and in this case, the green team has won. The best thing about this game is it involves movement, and it also gives you an opportunity to test students' knowledge on the particular subject. The next game, and penultimate in this list, is the unfair game. Now, if you love watching your students lose their minds, then this game is for you. Again, before this activity, you as a teacher, we need to do some work. We're going to prep 20 questions, and these are related to the topic that you're teaching. And also you're going to have 20 points that correspond to each question. Now, the way this is unfair is that each point is going to be random. So you could have points ranging from -20 to +40. Now, the thing is, the students don't know these points values, and the students don't know either which point value corresponds to which question. So let's say we start with the first team. We've got 2 teams. We start with the first team and we ask them their first question. They get it right, but they don't know the points value. Now they have 2 choices. They can either give or keep. Give is they give the points value to the other team, or keep is that they keep it for their team. Before they see the points value, they need to make that decision. So let's imagine they say give, and it turns out this points value is +30. Oh no, they've just given 30 points to the other team. Now we ask the other team their first question, and let's say they get it right, and they decide to keep their points, and it turns out to be -50. You'll need to also prepare some slips of paper with the points value on it so you can show it to the students once they've made that decision to keep or give the points. The last game that I want to share with you in this video is called Desert Island. Now, the way this works is that you as a teacher are going to come up with a rule, but you're not going to share that rule with your students. It is the objective of the game for the students to find out what that rule is. I'll start the class by saying to my students, I'm going to a desert island and I'm going to be bringing some cake. And I'll ask my students one by one, what will they be bringing? And if they follow the rule, then they can come with me. So let's say, for example, I ask the first student and they say they'll be bringing a carrot. Yes, you can come. And then I ask the third student, Or second student, what are you bringing? And they say, I'm bringing lemons. And I say, you can't come. And then I ask another student, the third student, I say, what are you bringing? And they would say, I'm bringing a cat. And I would say to the student, yes, you can come. Now, you can probably already see that I'm allowing students to come on the desert island if they say a word beginning with the letter C. Now, this was quite a simple one to come up with, but you can come up with all these different rules that will work every time you play this game. In the description to this video, I've put a list of some rules that you could use to play Desert Island with your students the next time you use it in your class. Thank you for watching this video on my favorite games that I've been playing with my teens and children over the last 16, 17 years in the classroom. I hope that at least one of them will work with your students. I'll see you in the next video.